It's not exactly clear whether it was in November or December of 1431, but a boy was born in the Wallachia region of Romania. Since he was born into a royal family, he was named Vlad III. His father, Vlad II, was supposed to become king, and he was given the title Dracul, which in Romanian means dragon, and in English it's referred to as dragon. Vlad III, who had just been born, took on his father's title and became known as Dracula, which in Romanian at that time meant the son of the dragon, or the son of the dragon. Vlad III was born in a region where violence was rampant, in medieval Europe, where everyone was hostile to one another. You know what was going on during that time. Despite being raised in a royal family, the hatred and violence in the environment had an impact on this child's upbringing. In his family, he learned two key principles: to hate your enemy and to increase your power every day. The father of this boy, Vlad II, spent most of his time fighting the Ottomans. Dracul, or Vlad II, really wanted his children to be well educated, so he brought in several Greek tutors to teach them not only mathematics but also the German and Latin languages. The situation was completely unstable, and no one knew what would happen tomorrow. In 1436, the Hungarians attacked Wallachia and easily captured the city. Dracul, or Vlad II, who was ruling as a prince, suddenly became a prisoner of the Hungarians. Unable to make peace with the Hungarians, he turned to his number one enemy, the Ottomans. He made an agreement with them to help him drive the Hungarians out. Sultan Mehmed II of the Ottoman Empire told him, "Okay, we'll help you, but what guarantee can you offer?" Vlad II asked, "What kind of guarantee do you want?" Mehmed replied, "You will send 2 of your sons to Istanbul. They must live here for a while." Vlad II, having no other option, agreed. The 2 sons, Dracula and his brother, went to Istanbul. Mehmed II, or Muhammad II, arranged a suitable place for the boys and sent them there to be kept under watch. Dracula and his brother, who had been living in an unsafe region in Romania, were now transferred to an even worse area. This was not because they were neglected, but because they were placed in a very hostile environment. The Ottomans maintained their power in the harshest ways. They would kill each other, and sometimes they would betray one another. Dracula grew up in this environment and witnessed firsthand what was happening. Before this, Dracula and his brother were learning German, Latin, and mathematics, but in Istanbul, Mehmed II changed their plans. He told them that from now on, they would learn Turkish and study the Quran. After some time, Radu, Dracula's younger brother, became interested in Islam and told his brother, "Let's become Muslims. I want to become Muslim." Dracula said, "No, I don't want to." Radu went by himself and converted to Islam. On the other side, let's see what's happening in Wallachia. The Ottomans, with the help of Vlad II, expelled the Hungarians. However, the Hungarians went back, re-equipped themselves, and returned with a larger army to retake Wallachia, which they occupied again. Vlad II, Dracula's father, was killed. But the Ottomans once again launched a night raid and captured Wallachia. They realized that Vlad II had been killed, so they decided to bring his son from Istanbul and make him the king. So Dracula was brought back to Wallachia and became its ruler. The Ottomans also gave him their support and then retreated. But little did they know that the Hungarians had been waiting for such a day. They attacked again and took control of Wallachia, forcing Dracula to flee. Where did he go? To Transylvania, the old name for Romania. There, in Transylvania, he met a person named John Hunyadi, who was originally a Hungarian warrior. At the same time, the Hungarians declared a new ruler for Wallachia and announced that from now on, this person, Vladislaus, would be the king of Wallachia. However, the Hungarian warrior who had met Dracula said he didn't like the idea of Vladislaus being the king of Wallachia. In reality, the throne there should belong to you. With the help of the Hungarian warrior and the soldiers he had hired, Dracula took Wallachia back from Vladislaus. When they were about to kill Vladislaus, Dracula said, "I want to do it myself." He then had a one-on-one duel with him and killed him. Dracula and Vladislaus not only took back Wallachia, but they also advanced as far as Moldova, expanding their realm significantly. However, Dracula was completely enraged. Why? Because the Hungarians had killed his father, and he was constantly seeking revenge. Dracula had a very particular method for seeking revenge. He would send invitations to the Hungarians he suspected and say, "Come to my palace for dinner, let's have a meal together and no longer be enemies." The invited Hungarians would think it was a good idea, enjoy a nice meal, and eliminate an enemy. They would go, but as soon as they arrived at the palace, they would be arrested. Dracula had prepared wooden stakes, but not for grilling meat. He planned to use them for the Hungarians and their families. They would be impaled on the wooden stakes, with the stake piercing through their bodies. This would happen in front of others, including their family members, waiting for their turn. Dracula began his revenge in this gruesome manner. He was so violent that even the laws he set in the city were all brutal. For example, if a boy and girl had a relationship before marriage, he had a law stating that they would be impaled on wooden stakes in the same way. There were many other horrifying laws that he enforced. On the other hand, the Ottomans were advancing and taking over the Balkans. In 1461, they conquered Greece, but Dracula didn't like the Ottomans gaining too much power. He knew that if their power increased, they would come after him as well. At this time, Sultan Mehmed II was still in power, and he considered Wallachia to be part of his domain. He sent a letter to Dracula saying that he needed 1,000 soldiers for his army and requested that Dracula provide them from his region. Sultan Mehmed sent a few men to Wallachia with the letter. When they arrived and handed the letter to Dracula, he ordered their arrest and execution. When the news reached Sultan Mehmed, he became furious, but realized there was nothing he could do. His imperial forces were stationed in areas where they couldn't return to Wallachia, so he didn't take any action. A few years later, Dracula sends a letter to Sultan Mehmed saying that he is coming to Serbia and invites him to come there as well so they can make a good deal. Sultan Mehmed agrees, but instead of going himself, he sends 1,000 of his best soldiers and tells them to go and kill Dracula. Dracula, being someone who always thought everything was a trap, did not go empty-handed. He went there with his army. The 1,000 soldiers were captured, and with Dracula's preferred method, impaling them on wooden stakes, all of them were killed. When Dracula was in Istanbul, he had learned Turkish very well, so he started moving toward the Ottoman territories. He attacked the border cities of the Ottoman Empire, and when he found out that someone was Turkish, he showed no mercy, even to their children, and killed them all. In just 4 weeks, he killed 23,000 Turks, none of whom were soldiers, just ordinary women and children. After these events, Dracula wrote a letter to Sultan Mehmed in Turkish. In this letter, he writes, "I have killed 23,884 Turks, though this number is not fixed, because I burned down all their houses. If anyone was hiding inside, they also died. Therefore, Your Highness Sultan Mehmed, from now on, I am no longer at peace with you." Sultan Mehmed quickly orders that an army be prepared and march towards Wallachia. An 18,000-strong army sets off, but Dracula is waiting with an army of 30,000, ready for battle. The Ottoman army suffers a heavy defeat. This defeat causes Dracula's name to spread across Europe, and he is recognized as a hero. Even the Pope declared him a hero. When the news of this defeat reaches Mehmed II, he becomes so enraged that he orders, "Forget Greece, forget Iran, gather all the forces and go to Wallachia." A 150,000-strong army is formed. Sultan Mehmed says, "Your mission is not just to capture Wallachia, your real mission is to kill Dracula." Dracula, meanwhile, is preparing with his army of 30,000. When the Ottomans arrive in Wallachia with their 150,000-strong army, the sheer size of this force devastates the area, and they advance. On the other side, Dracula realizes the situation is dire and that he cannot fight against such a large army. He decides to take a portion of his troops and retreat into the mountains. The Ottoman army captures all of Wallachia, while Dracula remains in the mountains, devising his next move. He orders a uniform from the Ottoman army to be made for him. Wearing the Ottoman military uniform, he descends and mingles with the Ottoman troops. Dracula moves around within the army, trying to reach Sultan Mehmed to kill him, but despite his efforts, he is unsuccessful. As night falls, he retreats back to the mountains. In the mountains, he has only 5,000 soldiers. He formulates a plan, saying, "Before sunrise, we will divide into 2 groups, launch a surprise night attack on the Ottoman army, kill as many as we can before they wake up. and then quickly retreat to the mountains. The plan succeeds, and in one night, they kill 15,000 Ottoman soldiers while losing fewer than 1,000 of their own. Dracula and 4,000 of his men retreat back to the mountains. However, 4,000 men were too few, as Sultan Mehmed could order his forces to storm the mountains at any moment. To avoid this, Dracula tells his men to move toward Hungary. Dracula had a tenuous relationship with Matthias Corvinus, the king of Hungary, and proposed to him, "Let's join forces and defeat the Ottomans together." But Dracula didn't know that he had come to a dangerous place because the king of Hungary had already made an agreement with Sultan Mehmed to capture him if he came there. Dracula is captured. Matthias Corvinus doesn't kill him, but imprisons him. However, Dracula was not someone to sit idle in prison. Since he was known as a hero in Europe, even in prison, everyone recognized him and gathered around him. From prison, he sent messages to the people saying, "A hero has been thrown into prison." Many people became his supporters, to the point where they were willing to fight for him. He made arrangements with people outside the prison, asking them to come help him escape and return to Wallachia. The people followed through with the plan, and he managed to escape. He returned to Wallachia only to face a shocking scene, a city that was 100% destroyed. Dracula now had only 3,000 soldiers left, far too few to fight against the Ottomans. Eventually, his location was discovered, and a group of Ottoman forces was assigned to hunt him down. In 1477, these forces reached Dracula and killed him. They decapitated him and sent his head to the Ottoman Sultan, who at the time was Bayezid II. The name Dracula became infamous because during his reign, he killed over 50,000 people in the most brutal ways imaginable. While many have committed cruel massacres, Dracula holds the record for the most horrifying methods of killing. That's why the name Dracula instills fear. In the 1960s and 1970s, many films were made about Dracula, but they didn't portray his real life. Instead, these films used his name for a vampire character. Even today, terrifying Dracula-themed movies are made, the latest of which came out in 2023. However, people didn't seem to like it much, as surveys showed that the majority found it unremarkable. He was a strange person, wasn't he? What's your opinion about this Dracula? Please share your thoughts. Please support us with subscribe, like, and comments. And thanks for your watching.